Welcome to Tennessee Court Talk. This episode is different from the interviews we normally host. In this episode, we take you to the investiture ceremony of Justice Dwight E. Tarwater to the Tennessee Supreme Court at the Tennessee Theater in Knoxville.
Oh yay, oh yay, oh yay. The Honorable Supreme Court of the State of Tennessee is now in session. God save the United States, the State of Tennessee, and this honorable court. Please be seated.
Dear, dear friends, what an incredible day. Welcome to the investiture of Dwight Edward Tarwater as Justice of the Tennessee Supreme Court, the highest court of our state and the court of last resort. I know that Dwight and his family are so very honored that each of you is here. Many of you all making the trip from across our great state and also other states as well. So allow me first to recognize our national and international dignitaries, if you don't mind, Governor Lee. Former Ambassador and former White House Counsel A.B. Culverhouse, former Policy Advisor to President Trump, John Rader, representing U.S. Senator Bill Hagerty and the Senator's legal counsel, Clark Milner, nationally renowned products liability and mass tort attorney with Sidley Austin, Maya Eaton. We want to welcome you here from the Windy City. And Melinda Hardy, corporate board member and longtime friend and UT alumni, and Ambassador Culverhouse's sister from Richmond, Virginia. Thank you all for joining us today. There are many of our General Assembly members here who were unanimous in their confirmation of Dwight. Please stand so that we can recognize your service and remain standing so that we can recognize all of you all together. From the Senate, Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally, Senator Majority Leader Jack Johnson, Chairman Bo Watson, Senators Becky Massey, Adam Lowe, and if there are any other senators that I've missed, please stand up so we can recognize you. And also members of the House of Representatives, House Majority Leader William Lamberth, Chairman Andrew Farmer, where this confirmation process actually began in Civil Justice Subcommittee, and other representatives, Representative Batts, Baum, Carrington, Davis, Powers, Zachary, and any others that I may have missed. Thank you all for being here today. I believe that Brandon Gibson, Governor Lee, and our state chief operating officer is here, along with Attorney General Jonathan Scarmetti, former U.S. Deputy of Defense Counsel Paul Nye, along with former U.S. Attorney Ed Yarbrough. Thank you to our host city mayors, Mayor Glenn Jacobs and Mayor India Kincannon. Thank you all so much for being here. And to the other members of the judiciary who are here, many of you all have known Dwight since law school days and have come from Memphis to Mountain City. Many of our esteemed judges, in fact, there's so many, they're over 50, that I can't read all of your names or we'd be here all day. But if you are a judge in this great state, juvenile, general sessions, trial judge, appellate judge, and former justices of the Supreme Court, please stand so that we can show our appreciation for your fair, equitable, and equal treatment under the law that is extended to all Tennesseans. And please welcome Dean and former Justice William Koch from the Nashville School of Law and Dean Lonnie T. Brown from right here at UT Law School, as well as Candace McQueen, former Tennessee Commissioner of Education and now president, the first female president of Lipscomb University. Thank you all. And finally, of course, we certainly want to welcome our esteemed speakers, beginning with Governor Bill Lee, Governor Bill Haslam, Chief Justice Holly Kirby, Justice Roger Page, Justice Jeff Bivens, and Justice Sarah Campbell. The Tarwater family, we especially welcome all of you all here. Former General Herbert Slattery, the Governor's legal counsel, Aaron Merrick, and Reverend Doug Bannister. As you all can see, there are hundreds of people here from all branches of government and local to global, and many more who wanted to attend, but they were unable to because Governor Sundquist's memorial was this afternoon as well. If I could, just take a moment to remember Governor Sundquist and to extend our deepest sympathy to Martha and the entire family. His legacy continues right here today on this stage, as he was the person who appointed first both Chief Justice Holly Kirby and former Chief Justice Jeff Bivens to the bench. He was so proud of these two appointments. Justice Kirby became the first female in history to serve on the Tennessee Court of Appeals. And many of you all, as I did, benefited from his ardent support of your career. He was a true example of reaching across the aisle to do good together for our state. Reverend Doug Bannister will now lead us in the invocation.
I have had the honor of walking with Dwight in the summer of success and the winter of suffering, the spring of hope, and the autumn of disappointment. Regardless of the season, I found him to be a man of integrity and compassion and faith. And I'm thankful he's going to be one of our Supreme Court judges. Tennesseans celebrate religious freedom, and I know our government does not embrace a particular religion, but I served Dwight and his family as a Christian minister for many years, and I will accordingly pray for him as a Christian. Would you join me? Oh Lord, you created our world to enjoy shalom. You dreamed of a world where every living being lives in harmony, peace, wholeness, and security. You made us to flourish, grow, and prosper. Yet sin has shattered shalom. Life on earth is no longer what you created it to be. We praise you, O God, that you have not abandoned us. You are rescuing us. Even now, you're in the process of restoring shalom on earth. And remarkably, you invite us to join you in restoring shalom to our communities. And your scriptures name this work justice. You are a God of justice. The Lord has established his throne for justice, and he judges the world with righteousness, prays the psalmist. You call your people to seek justice. Amos cries out, "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." Micah asks, "What does the Lord require of you but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God?" You appoint judges to help us seek justice. Just judges help restore the world to the way God intended it to be. Just judges help restore shalom in our communities. Oh Lord, you have called Dwight Tarwater to restore shalom in our state as a judge. Help Dwight do justice and love kindness and walk humbly with our God. Help Dwight break up log jams of injustice that keep the waters of justice from flowing freely in our state. Almighty God, who sits on the throne judging rightly, you give wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. You reveal deep and hidden things. You know what lies in darkness, and light dwells with you. We humbly ask you to bless Dwight with the spirit of wisdom and understanding, that he may discern the truth and impartially administer the law in the fear of you alone. Oh God, we know that a striking characteristic of biblical justice is caring for the weak and the vulnerable. The prophet Jeremiah commands, "Do justice and deliver from the hand of the oppressor him who has been robbed, and do no violence to the immigrant, the fatherless, or the widow." Give Dwight wisdom in seeking justice for the widow, the orphan, the prisoner, and the refugee. May he be able to say when he is done with Job, "Because I delivered the poor who cried for help, and the fatherless who had none to help him, and I caused the widow's heart to sing joyfully, my justice was like a robe and a turban." Your prophets, past and present, dreamt of justice, the restoration of shalom. They long for a day when every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places be made plain, the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. Guide Dwight in the difficult work of making rough places plain and crooked places straight. Help him be fair. Help him be impartial. Help him treat everyone as they deserve to be treated. Help him be a bridge builder and a reconciler and a peacemaker, and when he must disagree, help him disagree gracefully. Protect his health, that he might serve on the bench for many years to come. Thank you for raising up Dwight Tarwater, a man after your own heart, as a Supreme Court judge in our state. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend Bannister. And now I want to invite Justice Tarwater's two eldest grandsons, Roe and Michael Freeman, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Roe and Michael. You have been part of making history today, and even though you are Georgia fans, we are glad that you and all of the other grandchildren are here today. So would the entire Tarwater family, wherever you are, please stand and be recognized as Roe and Michael take their seats. Honored guests, and of course to the beautiful Tarwater family, thank each of you all for taking time to be here today. This is what history is, what history making should look like. The civil and respectful passing of the torch, changing of the guard, whether by investiture or a simple oath-taking. This is what we do and who we are. This is democracy at its very best. And I'm so very proud to be here witnessing this honorable transfer of power and prestige and official title from one colleague to another with the utmost of respect. Our forefathers expected no less, and today in Tennessee, we are living out this constitutional mandate. Whether your name or title was called out, there is one word that describes everyone in this room, and that is friend. We are all here today to honor our friend, colleague, law partner, public servant, counselor, father, and grandfather as he embarks upon another role, not only to serve at the highest office of our judiciary, but more importantly, the epitome of what true public service means in these often acrimonious, contentious, and contemptuous toward government and institutions times in which we find ourselves. And I have to tell you all, I feel a little guilty and inadequate because actually we all know who should be standing here, and that is Don Payne. In fact, most of our careers, at least of a certain age, are due to Don Payne and getting us through the bar exam. His impact on each of us, as well as being the official reporter of the Supreme Court for almost 50 years, is indelibly printed. Justice Janice Holder said once, "No other person has contributed more than Mr. Payne to the ongoing development of the rules of procedure and the rules of evidence. He left an indelible mark on the practice of law in Tennessee." So I know he's smiling down at his student, longtime partner, and dear friend, and I'm just glad to be a placeholder today. Justice Tarwater, you may be succeeding someone with a much smaller shoe size, but she is fearless, persistent, and a huge supporter of bench and bar, as well as her strong commitment to access to justice. We thank and honor you, former Justice Sharon Lee, attorney, judge, Chief Justice, and the best Mimi in the world. So Sharon Lee, please stand so we can thank you. Governor Bill Haslam certainly needs no introduction here in his hometown, and we will see a video that he taped for Dwight and his family. His impact, first here as the mayor, is still palpable, as his impact on the judiciary, including his appointment of two of our justices here today. However, this is truly personal to him, as he and Dwight were in Bible study for many years together. And then we were able to watch him, just like we have Dwight Tarwater, be a great grandfather over his years in public life as our governor. And not only were you all formally public officials as governor and legal counsel, but also as abiding friends throughout life. He left a legacy of free opportunities for education and attending college, books from birth, and the incredible economic success that our state is still enjoying. So let's hear from Governor Haslam in his video.
Governor Lee, justices, members of the court, so many distinguished guests who are here today. I really am sorry that Chrissy and I can't be with you today. We would love to be here to greet you, welcome you to Knoxville, to see a lot of old friends, and also primarily to pay tribute to my friend Dwight Tarwater, the next Tennessee Supreme Court Justice. Herbert Slattery has a saying that it helps to have people who are seasoned by life. And I have had the benefit of watching Dwight be seasoned by life. I knew him as a college student, as a young practicing attorney, a young father and husband, as somebody who grew his practice and suffered the horrible personal tragedy of losing his wife, and yet pulled and shepherded his children around them to create such a strong family. I have also seen him working side by side as legal counsel to the governor, where you see all sorts of issues, from trying to figure out legislative issues to the myriad challenges that come before the state every day on the legal front, to the maybe most difficult personal decisions around pardons and clemencies and exonerations. And I've seen Dwight handle those all with a true wisdom and the kind of judgment that you want. Ultimately, when you're hiring a lawyer or counsel, what you hope for out of somebody on the bench is somebody with great judgment. And Dwight will bring that to bench. He understands it's not his job to make the law, it's his job to interpret that, and he will play that role well. You know, one of the really important things, I think, is understanding exactly what your role is, and I think that happens best when it's undergirded by a sense of humility of why you're there and what your call is and what it's not. You know, one of my favorite scriptures is, for God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Dwight will bring that humility to the bench that will serve all of us well. It gives me great confidence that Dwight is joining the other outstanding members of the Tennessee Supreme Court. Again, thank you, Governor Lee. You made a wonderful selection. Congratulations, Dwight. And this is really another great day for the state of Tennessee. Thanks.
Well, we might be seated out of order from law school, but how wonderful it is to be united again with General Herbert Slattery. In law school, we sat in alphabetical order, so it was Slattery, Tarwater, Taylor, then Tate. And years later, in another chapter, we were reunited, as Governor Haslam was just saying, with the daunting responsibilities of official roles, from executions to constitutional issues to judicial appointments. How appropriate that your remarks should follow your former boss, Governor Haslam, preceding Dwight in that role as legal counsel to the governor. We all appreciated all you did for the state of Tennessee as our Attorney General, and also as you worked on the national opioid epidemic, rampant right here in East Tennessee, and providing national leadership for the Attorney Generals of our United States. You have served our state and nation well, and we thank you, General Slattery.
Thank you, Debbie, and may it please the court, Governor, and honored guests. And I'm awfully glad that Debbie ran through the names, because I couldn't have done that. This is a happy day. Years ago, two guys walked into 1505 Cumberland Avenue, learned what a tort was, read those crazy English contract cases, set up a study group, graduated, studied for the bar, even practiced law for a while in the same firm. And that was my start with Dwight Edward Tarwater. And we did a lot of things together. He went with me to my first deposition. And after we had taken it, I was walking out, and I asked him how he thought it went. And Dwight looked at me and said, well, you asked all the right questions, but you might want to listen to the answers the next time. Oh, well, that's not the last piece of advice I've gotten from him. And that leads me to three things I want to share, three reasons why I think Dwight's going to be a terrific Supreme Court justice. And it's not because he can moonwalk, although he can, but there are more than three reasons, but I just wanted to mention three. The first one is that he's real. With Dwight, you get what you see. I mean, there's no put on. There's no manufactured persona. He's not false in any way. And I'll tell you what, to illustrate that, let me just tell you, when we heard, it was just great for him to go through this process. But before he was going through this, he was counsel to the Governor Haslam. And in the last days of the Haslam administration, he got a call from a rather persistent critic or complainer or whatever. And Dwight is very polite, and he listened to him for a while, but then at some point he interrupted and said, I've listened to you for a long time, but you can take this and you can just go fly a kite, or words to that effect. I always wanted to say something like that, to be honest with you, but we think it, Dwight says it. And, but I hope that never changes. I really hope that never changes. In fact, when we learned, I was with our Solicitor General, Andre Blumstein, in her office when we learned that the governor had appointed Dwight. another one of your many, many good decisions, Governor. And we looked at each other and we smiled and we said, those judicial conferences are going to get a lot more lively. So he's real. The second characteristic and factor, I think, is he knows state government. Now, I know you think that's really boring, but it isn't. He's worked in the judicial branch. He's worked 4 years with Governor Haslam in the executive branch. He worked with the legislature, handling the governor's bills and all sorts of other issues. And when I say he knows state government, it's not simply up here or some sort of passive knowledge. It's the difference between knowing honey is sweet and tasting it. And Dwight's tasted it. And I can tell you from my years in the Attorney General's office, we longed for judges to know how hard governing really is. Governing is a lot like, it's a lot of 5-4 decisions, and they're coming at you really fast. You've got to make decisions, you've got to move forward because there's a whole nother bunch coming down the road right at you, and it's difficult. I think it's really, really difficult when you consider all the things you have to balance, and Dwight has that handle, and you know he knows that bill amendments are made in the heat of the moment. There's not, you know, the grammar is not pluperfect in all instances. He knows that legislative history is not reliable, so that won't be a problem for him at all. But that knowledge of state government will really, really help Tennessee. And I looked at the program and I followed the Governor Haslam, and I knew he was going to take part of this talk. And he mentioned seasoned by life, and he did a really good job, and I'm not going to correct or modify that in any event. I will give you one more glimpse from a different perspective. I think, you know, that governors, they don't appoint people judges who aren't smart, who can't write, who don't have the kind of character. Those are admission tickets. But there has to be something that separates them from the rest. And Dwight's experience with his family was a separator. And another thing that we shared, both of us married way over our heads. And I can tell you, Mary Flowers Tarwater was beautiful, smart, and formidable. And how he handled those experiences was simply amazing. But he got asked about that when he was before the Judicial Council for the governor appointments. And I'll never forget it. They asked him about it. He shared how hard it was. And then he sort of sat up in his chair, leaned forward, and he said, "I'll tell you this, I'm not afraid." And he's not. So those are 3 reasons why I think Dwight's going to be a fabulous Supreme Court justice. And to quote Tina Turner, Dwight, at this particular time, for this particular position with the court, you are simply the best. And I can tell you that I speak for virtually everyone in this room that we are pulling for you. We admire you. We respect you for who you are and what you've accomplished. And we know that Tennessee will look back at some point in its history and will be awfully glad that Dwight Tarwater raised his hand for public service. Now, as you would instruct me, soli Deo Gloria, to God alone be the glory. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General Slattery. I've already mentioned that Chief Justice Holly Kirby's impact on Tennessee history was great, and not only for women in the legal profession, but for all women, as the first female ever appointed to the Court of Appeals. However, Justice Kirby is also only the 6th female in the history of our state to be appointed to the Supreme Court by Governor Haslam in 2014, and only the fourth female Chief Justice. Her bar associations and honors and awards are too numerous to list today. However, one that transcends our legal profession and one that I found just to be incredible is she was named Mother of the Year from the Tennessee Justice Center. Justice Kirby, you will never need to question Justice Tarwater's absolute and total commitment and loyalty to the good of the court. Dwight will be very much like Thomas Jefferson, who said, "I never considered a difference of opinion in politics, in religion, or in philosophy as any cause for withdrawing from a friend." Chief Justice Kirby.
It's my privilege and a pure joy to be here today on behalf of the court for the investiture of Dwight Tarwater. As a court, we don't get a say in who applies or who is selected, but you better believe we are watching. This time there could be no finer applicant or selection Governor Lee could have made. Dwight Tarwater has the integrity, the intellect, the work ethic, the compassion, and the old-fashioned common sense needed to be an excellent justice on our state's high court. He also has perhaps the most important quality. That's one that Governor Haslam mentioned in his remarks: humility. Let me explain. When our founding fathers were fashioning the new government for the United States, they grappled with the question, how can we give government the power it needs without also giving it the power to oppress? Their answer was to define and divide governmental power. Specifically, the founders gave the national government only so much, and the rest was left to the states and the people. Because of this, there's only a few defined areas where the state Supreme Court has to defer to the United States Supreme Court. Things like the federal Constitution and federal statutes. But on questions about our state constitution, our state statutes, our state common law, the U.S. Supreme Court must defer to the state Supreme Court. In fact, on most of the questions that we hear, the ruling of the Tennessee Supreme Court is the final word. There's no appeal, no higher authority. That's why humility is so important. The kind of power state Supreme Court justices have must be tempered by humility. Now, I think we can all rest assured that Dwight Tarwater is not going to come down with a case of black robe fever. He'll use the power that Governor Lee gives him today with humility. And that brings me to the other thing we on the court are grateful for, something that Debbie Tate mentioned. For all of Justice Tarwater's very important credentials and abilities, his superpower may be that he's a terrific friend. That quality will help the court as we all work together to make so many hard decisions. I mean, think about it. Whatever capacity Dwight has occupied in your life, your advocate, your opposing counsel, your coworker, even your family member. Don't you also kind of think of him as your buddy? Raise your hand if you think of Dwight as your buddy. Yeah. So many people in this room. We do too. So welcome, friend. Welcome to our court. We look forward to working with you for many years to come.
Thank you, Justice Kirby. General Counsel Aaron Merrick will officially introduce the Honorable Bill Lee, but I just wanted to say and repeat, thank you, Governor Lee, for all of your wonderful appointments, and especially for this one. Dwight was the right person at the right time, and I think that our good friend Senator Kerry Roberts, and I'm not sure, I can't see you all, so I don't know if he's out there, said something during the Judiciary Committee's confirmation that is so true. And he said, and I think, Governor Lee, you would also underscore this, there's so many tangible qualities, and you all have heard this over and over, that are necessary and that Dwight has. But we don't talk enough about the intangible qualities. Senator Roberts said, I've been so impressed with you, your demeanor, your approach, you're thoughtful, you're generous with your time, quick to listen, slow to speak, and I know all the tangible things you possess. But I want the people on that bench to have the intangible qualities that you have, who you are, as Chief Justice just said, and what you stand for, the attitude that you've brought in the past to your work and that you will apply to this court in the future. So clearly, Governor Lee, you saw these intangible qualities too. So we welcome you today to move him from Citizen Tarwater to Justice Tarwater. But first, Aaron Merrick, who I said holds the exact same job that both Dwight and General Slattery held. So you're beginning to see there are a lot of connections up here. She joined Governor Lee after an incredibly successful career at the Attorney General's office, where much like Mr. Tarwater, she handled extraordinarily complex multi-state litigation. In addition to both state and federal courts, she also represented us before the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. However, possibly most noteworthy was that she oversaw the campaign regarding the amendment to the Tennessee Constitution regarding the selection of appellate judges. And while many citizens may not realize it, I think that all we in this room do realize that we owe her a great debt of gratitude. So, Counsel Merrick.
Good afternoon. Together with my team, I manage the governor's selection process for appellate judges. We rigorously vet candidates to test their chops for the state's highest courts through a series of interviews and hypos and just getting to know one another. Selecting Supreme Court justices is one of a governor's greatest responsibilities, with repercussions that will echo far beyond the end of an administration. And you've heard so many talk today about all the factors, tangible and intangible, that make Dwight Tarwater such an excellent choice for this job. And strength of character is one of the prime things that is considered when the governor makes an appointment such as this. So the person who has the duty and the privilege to weigh all of the factors we've discussed here today and to make the best choice for Tennessee is our 50th Governor, Bill Lee. Please join me in welcoming Governor Lee to the podium.
Thank you. What an incredible honor it is for me to have the job and the opportunity of selecting justices to the Supreme Court. I have said on many occasions that this may be the most important, if not one of the most important jobs that a governor has. So welcome to this incredibly important ceremony. Thank each one of you for being here. Justices, family, former officials, members of the judiciary, members of the General Assembly, Lieutenant Governor, I think Speaker may be here. There are so many dignitaries in this room. Dwight, you should be very proud. You have assembled quite a group of folks for quite an important moment. It is one of the most important things that I have to do in this job, and I've said, and if you've been interviewed by me for a judicial position, you would know that I would say I'm probably the least qualified person in the room to choose a judge when surrounded by so many lawyers and judges and members of the judiciary. except that it's the job given to the governor to choose. And as was expressed earlier, justice is the cornerstone of the selection process. It's the cornerstone of this job. And in some ways, when I go through the process of selecting a judge, and certainly a justice for the Supreme Court, it requires not expertise in the law or expertise in the particulars that are a part of that job, but a discernment of the qualities and the characteristics of that human being that's going to sit on that bench. I have interviewed few men like Dwight Tarwater for this position. Men or women, few people. Obviously, all of his accolades, his accomplishments, his successes have been spoken about, laid out before you. But this process means that a number of highly qualified people come to the forefront for positions like this. And then it's my job to sit and speak with each one of them and interview them and discern the right person for that job. A little bit like the job that a justice has, to assemble all of the facts and look at the law and look at the text and review everything about the case, and then discern what's the appropriate decision going forward. In this case, that discernment came quickly. And I think part of the reason that has been spoken about already, the characteristics and the quality and the lessons learned from a life lived that have created a man that is unique and stands out above the others. I especially want to, General Slater, you spoke of the honey that he has tasted. Governor Haslam spoke of the tragedies that he's faced. I'm a person who believes that to the degree a man has not only tasted sweetness, but bittersweet, that bittersweet is in fact the most important flavor of all, that to the degree that a person has been broken, they can be whole. To the degree that a person has experienced sorrow, they can experience joy. That a full life, the fullest, richest, most meaningful life, is often lived out of the depths of the hardest things in life. And certainly this man has walked through all of those to find himself at this important place in life to impact even more people's lives than he has already. It is a huge honor for me to have gone through the process and to select Dwight. This is an incredibly rare and important position. It will have an impact on Tennesseans for decades to come, and for some forever. And so it's not taken lightly, but it was one that was, I wouldn't say it was easy to select, but it was certainly one that once that selection was made, I knew that the right selection had been made. And it's evident to a whole lot of people in here that that is the case. So, sir, we are proud of you and grateful for you. I know your family is. It's the greatest joy I have to be a part of this ceremony. Thank you for that. And I think it's time for me to administer the oath. I, Dwight E. Tarwater,
I, Dwight E. Tarwater,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Tennessee,
and the state of Tennessee,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all the duties incumbent upon me
discharge all the duties incumbent upon me
as Justice of the Supreme Court of the State of Tennessee,
as Justice of the Supreme Court of the State of Tennessee,
to the best of my skill and ability,
to the best of my skill and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Well, that was, seemed like maybe the hardest part of this job, getting the robe on. I can't help but think about that little difficulty. And I want to tell you, and I want to tell all of Tennessee, I'm so thankful and honored to serve, but it's not about the black robe for me. I want to do the work. I want to decide the cases. I want to serve with honor. Thank you, Governor Lee. I told you that I would work hard and be fair. And that's what I will do. And I promise you, sir, I will never violate that oath that you just gave me. And I won't let you down, and I won't let Tennessee down. And may it please the court, I am Dwight Tarwater of the Knoxville Bar. And it was a great privilege to be before you. And it's a bigger honor to sit beside you. I look forward to the next mountain that we can climb together. There are many members of the General Assembly here today, and Debbie mentioned a lot of you by name, and I won't try to do that again. But I want to thank you, every one of you, for voting to confirm me. One of the most humbling moments in my life was when you voted to confirm me unanimously. I think about that in today's times, and if I'm a guy who can just bring a little sliver of consensus and unity, I want to do that, and I'm thankful that you gave me that opportunity. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor McNally. Thank you, Becky Massey, for standing up for me during the Judiciary Committee hearing. Thank you, Chairman Gardenhire. Thank you, Chairman Farmer, for making the motion on the House floor to confirm me. Thank you, Leader Johnson, for making the motion in the Senate to confirm me. And thank you, Leader Lamberth, Majority Leader Lamberth. I think you're out there somewhere. You're my colleague and my friend, and I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate all of the members of the House and Senate. There are many judges here today. Many of you I've been before. Many of you have extended kindnesses to me in emails and texts and phone calls. But I want every one of you to know something that I will never disregard. Every single one of you has been on the bench longer than me. I'll need your counsel and advice. I will give great weight to the precedents that you set and the customs that you established. And I'll do my best to catch on. But I promise you, I'll always know my place. And while I'm talking about judges, maybe I'll call one out here. Perhaps the person that showed me the greatest kindness during my transition. Justice Lee. Thank you for your service, Justice Lee. You served with honor and dignity and integrity. You left the bench a better place. You helped me so graciously during the transition. I'll do my dead level best to hold high the torch that you passed to me. And to my lawyer colleagues, I know there's a bunch of y'all out there that I've tried cases with, tried cases against, had a few beers with. You know, being a lawyer is more than what we do, it's who we are. I will never forget what it felt like to be in the arena, to sometimes being the only person standing by a client who had no one else but you. I loved to pick juries. I loved to open. I loved to examine witnesses. I loved to cross-examine witnesses. And I loved being an advocate in the courtroom for clients who needed help. Now, I didn't like losing as many cases as I did. But that's part of that humility check, too. I won't forget, my lawyer colleagues, I won't forget that. I know what you want from the bench. You want judges who will allow you to present your case so that your clients have a fair and a full shot. And I hope to bring that to the court. All we really want as lawyers is a chance, right? A chance that the court might see it our way. And we want our judges to be prepared. I will never forget. I will never be that far removed. But I want to remind you all of something. I'm going to know what you're up to. Let me call out a few lawyers. I had this great investiture committee, co-chaired by two of my pals, Tom Hale of the Kramer Racing Firm and Don Bosch of Don Bosch. Tom Hale and Don Bosch, right? Two peas in a pod. The other members of my committee were Robin Askew, Kyle Carpenter, Bruce Fox, Cheryl Rice, Wayne Ritchie, and Culver Schmid. they helped me with this event and did a beautiful job. And I can't thank you all enough. And if you look in your program, you will see a list of sponsors for this event and the reception afterwards. There are numerous law firms and lawyers who have contributed their resources so that we can do this today. And your generosity is overwhelming, and I thank you so much. So Debbie mentioned Don Payne. You know, it's always good to remember those in your life that gave you a chance, that saw in you things that perhaps others did not. Payne, I guess, he was my partner and mentor, but gosh, Don was like the partner and mentor to us all. He taught us the bar review course. He taught CLE. He was the longtime reporter to the Supreme Court's Advisory Commission on the Rules of Evidence and Civil Procedure. So here's a little backstory. A few days ago, Chief Justice Kirby asked me if I would be the court's liaison to the Advisory Commission on the Rules. I was so thankful to be able to do that because it gives me an opportunity to connect to Payne's legacy. And I'll do the best I can do with that. It won't be like him, but I'll you know, he did teach me to always take my rule book to court. So if you're a young lawyer out there, take your rule book to court. It'll help you. My firm was formed. Yeah, there you go. My firm was formed in 1987. I suppose that the hardest thing about this was walking out of there last Thursday, knowing that in all likelihood I'll never be back. Firm has existed for 36 years now. We have done well, had a lot of good days and very few bad days. So we remember the good. Tom Bickers, my long-time partner, I guess our partnership is the second longest in my life. There's more for you to do, Tom. Look after those young lawyers in our firm. You were strong and wise to me, and I'm sure you'll continue to be strong and wise for them. My other partners, Mike King, John Elder, Taylor Williams, Catherine Anglin, and Lindsay Collins. I can't wait to see the good that you do. And like that sign that's on my office door that says onward, it is time to move onward. So Godspeed, Payne, Bickers, Elder, King, and Williams. Another lawyer I'll talk about briefly is Debbie Tate. And I met Debbie when we were undergraduates, and we've had this unlikely 50-year friendship. She was close to my late wife. Her husband was in my wedding. He and I pursued careers in private practice. Debbie went into service. She served in the Bush administration as the FCC commissioner, served at the state level as the executive director of the courts. So let me tell you one story about Debbie, and it doesn't have to do, there are perhaps other stories that Debbie knows that I'm glad weren't discussed during my background check during our college days, but I want to tell you this story about Debbie. When it came time for me to take the oath, she gave me a little Bible. It's a little tiny Bible, and Debbie collects these Bibles. This was probably carried by an old soldier. It appears to be a couple of 100 years old, maybe 100 years old. Everyone should have a friend that gives them a Bible. And I hope everyone is a friend, can be a friend who can give someone a little Bible and maybe remind them of the words of Micah, which seems like he's the theme today, right? To do justice and seek mercy and walk humbly. Our accomplishments will fade away, but our relationships will last forever. So in 2013, shortly after my wife died, my friend Herbert Slatery asked me if I would work on Amendment 2, the Judicial Selection Amendment to the Constitution. So I helped Herbert, and I didn't have a lot of zip for trying lawsuits at that point, but I could help Herbert, and so I did. And about a year later, he said, you know, you should consider becoming Governor Haslam's general counsel. And so I agreed to talk to the governor about that. It was as if these two men kind of grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and lifted me up out of this abyss that I was in. They told me, we have good work for you to do. And so I did. Now, I will tell you this, I'm a litigator, right? I'm not a general counsel. But I knew that what I should do for Governor Haslam is kind of the reverse paradigm here. I knew that what I should do is be heard and not seen, to be heard by him in a quiet and wise way. And so that's what I tried to do for the governor. And it wasn't actually in my skill set, okay? Where was the courtroom? Where was the flash and the sizzle, you know, that we all get these adrenaline rushes for? But what I saw in that service was this virtue. I saw the needle move. Saw Tennesseans affected positively by some of our reforms and some of the legislation that we sponsored. And I wondered then if I would have the opportunity to serve again. And then now I do. And I'm really very thankful for that. As the years have passed, God has allowed me to encounter some important people who've turned out to mean very much to me, and sometimes in unexpected ways. So I'd like to say a public thank you to a person that I reconnected with, who had also lost her spouse. Melinda Hardy from Richmond, Virginia. So skilled and gifted and beautiful and charming. And You know, the person that connected us sent me a picture and said, "This is Melinda Hardy from Richmond, Virginia." And I said, "Well, that may be Melinda Hardy, but it looks an awful lot like Mimi Culverhouse from 10 Mile, Tennessee." And in fact, that's who that was, a classmate. There are 3 things that Melinda does not entertain or do very well. 2 of those are confusion and doubt. And so when I became confused about my mission, she helped me with that. And when I doubted myself, she really helped me with that. The third thing is that she doesn't suffer fools gladly, and I'm still working on that one. C.S. Lewis wrote, "The good of oneself is to be the good of another." Thank you, Mimi, for taking this journey with me. And thank you for finding the good of another. Finding my family. Look at these guys. You know, in 2012, my kids lost their mom, and I didn't know how that might turn out. And we are not the only family that has experienced great tragedy, and I'm not the only person on this stage that lost a spouse. And we can look around in our communities and see pain and sickness and dying and death and injustice every day. Sometimes we have to gather our kids around us and say, "This is what we're going to do now." I look at you 3, and the 3 of you have gotten married in these last 10 years. There are 5 grandchildren and another one on the way, Charity. Have number 6 in December. And I look at you, I see how you have lived. I see the goodness in your lives. I see your faithful hearts. I see how productive you've been. I see the love that you have for your children, my grandchildren. And the way that you have lived your lives has been a very great inspiration to me. Thank you for lifting me up and helping me to this spot on the podium. I love you, and I'm so proud of you. And so my journey, this broken road that Rascal Flatts sang about, has led me here to this stage in this town, in this theater. I saw In Search of the Castaways here in 1962. I rode the city bus from West Hills to downtown Knoxville to the Tennessee Theater to see Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in 1969. I started my law practice across the street from this building. That's where Herbert and I were first-year associates. I started my law firm a block to the south of here. I've walked down this street thousands of times to the courthouse and back to the office. I stand before you thankful for your love and friendship and for this community that cheered for my family and wept with my family and prayed for my family. Thank you, Knoxville. I hear there hadn't been somebody like me up here since 1947. At least that's what somebody wrote from our community, and I'll try to serve for at least 75 years when the next one gets appointed. So my friend Halloran Hill used to say that today has never been lived before, and neither has tomorrow. Tomorrow is unknown. We can fear tomorrow, or we can embrace tomorrow. I want tomorrow to be my friend, and I want tomorrow to be your friend. And tomorrow, I will be on the bench at 9 o'clock in the morning. And when that journey begins, I will offer you and the state everything that I am and nothing that I'm not. So humility is something that we've heard about today, and humility is an acquired skill, right? So when you're a young man, or a young person, it's sometimes a little hard to be humble. And then when you've had your brains beat out about 1,000 times, it gets easier, to be humble. I've lost a lot of cases to the lawyers in this room. And in fact, I've had most of the judges in this room rule against me. So I get the whole humility thing. I want to, it wouldn't be right for me not to tell a story, right? So I'll close with a story about humility. And this was my humility test. And it came when I was counsel to the governor. And this is when I learned that I still had a little ways to go to be the person that I want to be. There was an event at Riverbend, the maximum security facility just outside of Nashville, and there were credible threats of violence at the prison and at the Capitol that night. And we were monitoring things from a command post in the bottom of the Capitol. There were security detail there. There were lots of troopers there. There were lots of videos, of the perimeter of the Capitol and also in the prison. And as the night wore on, things settled down, and it looked like we were going to be okay. We were going to be able to go home. And there were 3 members of the governor's staff there that night. There was me, and then there were two women, both expecting, the press secretary and the policy advisor to Governor Haslam. And so I went down there to hang out with the troopers, and I said, boys, how about taking these 2 to their car and make sure they get there safely and get home? And they said, yes, sir, counselor, we got them, don't worry about it. And so they escorted the 2 out, and then that left me. I was the only person on the governor's staff left in the Capitol, and they said, counselor, you want us to take you out? And I said, no, boys, I got this. My car's down at the bottom of the steps where it always is, and I'll be fine. So I went out the back door of the Capitol, started down the steps, only to encounter a mob at the bottom of the steps of the Capitol, or at least it seemed like a mob. They were carrying torches. Seemed like torches. So I went back into the Capitol, and I went back into the security detail, and I said, guys, there's a mob, down at the bottom of the steps. And they said, oh my gosh, where'd they come from? Don't worry, we'll take you out. So I had two big, burly troopers on either side of me, and they escorted me out of the Capitol and down the steps. And man, I felt like Josh Heupel, Bear Bryant, I was a big shot. I had security. I had four big guys. And we entered into the mob. The mob was a haunted walking tour of Nashville. And they had all stopped to light candles at the tomb of Andrew Jackson. So I looked at the trooper, and the trooper looked at me, and that's kind of what I sounded like. And one of these old troopers looked at me and said, "Think you can make it from here?" So that was my humility check, and that helped me become a finished product, I hope. Thank you, friends, neighbors, colleagues, lawyers, judges, elected officials. Thank you, Knoxville. Thank you, Governor Lee. I think I can make it from here.
I think he's got that humility thing now. We welcome our brother and sister bar associations, who will now officially present gavels to the Honorable Justice Tarwater, Mr. Jim Berry, President of the Tennessee Bar Association, who's come all the way from Memphis to be here, and Mrs. Loretta Cravens, President of the Knoxville Bar.
Thank you. As Debbie said, I'm Jim Berry, President of TBA. And on behalf of all the members across the state of the Bar Association, I want to congratulate you, Justice Tarwater, and present you with this gavel.
My name is Loretta Cravens. I am honored to be president of the Knoxville Bar Association, and we are honored that you are Dwight Tarwater, Knoxville Bar. And it is my honor to congratulate you, and to be the first to congratulate you on never facing another adverse ruling from anyone in this room, or a loss in any of these litigators' hands. We know you'll serve us in that same volunteer spirit you've always served our bar. From time to time, we'll be looking for a little bit of the sizzle.
It says that I have remarks, but I will just thank our dignitaries on stage and those in attendance, and especially Governor Haslam for the video and Governor Lee for your wonderful remarks. We're so glad that you're here. And to the Chief Justice for those generous remarks for Dwight and his family and our great state. Friends, much has been said by all of our honored guests about Dwight's past and clear preparation and exemplary legal qualifications for this role. And he mentioned Micah 6:8. So I will close just by saying I had a few quotes that I found for you. First, from Justice O'Connor, who had so many firsts in our nation's history. I don't know that there are any shortcuts to doing a good job. So remember that. Just do the best every single day, Abraham Lincoln. And finally, success is not the position where you are standing today, but the direction that you are going. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. So we wish you all the greatest success in this new role, Justice Tarwater. Our state and our citizens will benefit from your experience, your commitment to the rule of law, and your humble servant leadership. Godspeed, dear friend. I would be remiss if I didn't also recognize staff from the Administrative Office of the Courts who are here to support the court and new Justice Tarwater, so thank you all for being here. Madam Clerk, would you please come?
All rise. The Honorable Supreme Court of the State of Tennessee is now adjourned.